Welcome back to another very special episode of the Experiential Travel Podcast, a podcast where we interview hosts that just do experiential travel right. They are hosts that offer experiences to allow their guests to disconnect in order to reconnect. Today's guest is the definition of experiential travel. The amount of experiences they offer on their property is just amazing. From ziplining to jacuzzis to paddleboarding to like literally everything. Their property sits on 4 acres in Coalmont, Tennessee. When you walk outside their cabin, it's literally like you're engulfed in nature. It is incredible. I've never been there, but I could tell you that if I was in Tennessee or even anywhere, I would make a trip to this cabin. It looks surreal. I am so excited to have this guest on. We are going to learn about all of his tricks and tips on how he created this property and also his plan for expansion, because that's the name of the game here, is to get that first property up and running, but then to expand. I'm so excited to have our guest on today, Ryan Duggar.
Thanks, Lex. I appreciate it. I'm happy to talk with everyone, and yeah, it's been an experience. You know, it's been a journey to everything from finding this property and then making it what it is today. And yeah, it's the future is exciting too. So yeah, thanks for having me.
I know that you're an experienced Airbnb host, you and your wife. I want to know the iterations of how Coalmont Cabins came into fruition and basically the birth story of Coalmont Cabins.
Yeah, so me and my wife, we own a real estate photography and videography company. So we shoot tons of properties. We have a team of photographers. We go out around town here in Chattanooga where we live. It's about an hour from our Airbnb, the Coalmont. And we get to see a lot of properties. You know, we're doing probably 40 to 50 properties a week where we get to go in and we shoot it for either for sale, or a lot of them we actually shoot Airbnbs and rentals. And so we have a good pulse on real estate, homes, and we deal with agents, and we kind of get a cool inside scoop on what the market looks like, what housing looks like, from a view that's kind of different than, we're not an agent, so we're not threatening to agents. We're actually partners with them. But we're also not just home shoppers on the outside, kind of like what's behind the lines. So, we've got we moved here about 10 years ago. We started that business, and me and my wife had already bought a home in Nashville that we kind of semi-flipped and sold, and we loved the process. And we just got into, all right, real estate can be a tool for investing. It can be a tool for kind of pushing your money forward. You can take, some investment money and move to the next one and build it, do something a little bigger, and then take that, sell it, and do something else, and it was around those, in those years where Airbnb became really popular. And, we had a pulse on the market. We thought, all right, Chattanooga is such a great town to have an Airbnb. We have the river, we have Tennessee River that goes right through the town. We have 2 mountains, that are kind of downtownish. A lot of people come here to be outside, to be outdoors, to experience the outdoors. So we thought, this would be a great place, not knowing enough probably to say, all right, let's jump into an Airbnb. But we were comfortable with the risk. We had set ourselves up for less risk, being able to pay as much cash as we could for our first rental. And we bought a little house, kind of downtown Chattanooga. And that's where our Airbnb story started, probably 6-7 years ago. And, it was a tiny, tiny house. We had not very much money. I was building the furniture for this place, if that tells you anything. I was building the bed.
Wait, hold on. I have a quick question in there. I want to know the mindset that you and your wife were at 6 years before, or 6 years from now. 6 years before this,
Yeah.
The mindset with getting into Airbnb. You were shooting properties already at this point?
Yeah. So we got to see, I guess, the market was changing a lot here. We had seen it change in Nashville, where we were from. So moving from Nashville here, we kind of saw that growth at a slower rate, maybe a few years behind what Nashville is doing. Chattanooga was also growing. So we saw an opportunity to invest, near town where we could see the market shifting, and we could see agents, we could hear the discussions about, all right, prices are really starting to go up. And we came across a house that a friend of mine who's an agent, showed me. And this house was I think we got it for around 85,000, and this was a very small house. It needed some work, but a lot of it by cosmetics we could, make it operational, and then some of the big things we could, work on later. And I mean, we put a lot of elbow grease into it. We worked hard to, make it what it was, and we only had so much cash that we could use. And like I said, we were building furniture. We were researching how do we market this thing. The good thing is, with us already being involved in marketing homes for real estate, we kind of had an idea of like, all right, we knew what we do with photos, we knew what we would do with video, social media. And then with the
Did you have an idea of doing this as a short-term rental or as a long-term rental when you bought the first one?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot. And, Airbnb was, it was something that for Chattanooga, it seemed kind of to be new, cutting edge. Like, not a lot of people had investments that they were, pushing out. And so Chattanooga being one of the smaller markets, one of the newer markets, we decided, you know what, we think that we could get a better ROI if we do the short term. And so that's what we went for. And it really took off. We were kind of surprised by the numbers. It's funny because we had two little kids. I mean, they were youngins. And we would take them over there. We were cleaning. We lived about 40 minutes away, and we would go and clean the Airbnb. And the kids always dreaded it, and we'd let them watch movies or whatever. So we started calling it Funville. And so we would just say, hey, we got to go clean Funville. And even though it was not actually fun for them, it was just cool to see how that changed over time and how the kids started to enjoy going over there, and what it actually became. It became the start of a big change for our future. So little did the kids know how much that little Airbnb and just starting by taking that small step was going to change the rest of our lives in the future. So, eventually we could have a real Funville, which is the Coalmont now. So, yeah.
Okay, so you get your first one, and then how many did you have before Coalmont?
So with that one, the first one, we had it for about a year. No, we had it for 2 years, and we had someone offer us cash because we had kind of thrown it out there on Facebook in some private groups that we were considering selling that. We loved it, but we wanted to really do something a little bit different and be able to take that cash and move into another investment. So, we had someone offer us cash and pretty much doubled what we paid for it.
That's incredible.
With a cash offer 2 years later. So, so then we took that and we ended up investing in a home where we had an Airbnb built as a part of the home. So we had our home, and then we had a kind of like a hallway, back door, bedroom, separate Airbnb attachment. So it could essentially be oh gosh, what do they call it?
Like a house hack?
Yeah. So where you live there, like an in-house host. I can't remember the wording on Airbnb, but so then we had that one. We eventually sold that house. We moved into another house that we had custom built. We did the same thing there. For a while, we were doing this to where we would have the Airbnb as an attachment to the home. It was great because we could clean it. We could save on the cleaning fee. and we did that for a while. And what we do is we found that in a couple of years, these houses would gain enough equity where we could take that cash and do something bigger and nicer. And so it was when we sold that, probably third or fourth one that we had, we took that cash and bought the Coalmont, which we just happened upon. So we were actually looking at a tiny home community. So a few years ago, there's a tiny home community out about an hour away from us. And they were selling lots, and you could basically buy one of their homes that they have pre-built kind of, or you could build a custom home, but you had to kind of go through some hoops to do that. That didn't work out, and we were kind of bummed, and they were selling fast, and we just, we couldn't get it lined up the way we wanted. We couldn't get the lot we wanted and all these things. So we were kind of bummed, but I was always watching the market. I was always watching like what hits the market, kind of keeping my eyes out, because we still shoot so many properties and our photographers are out there and we're hearing, oh, this could be a cool property. This could be a cool one. And we just couldn't find the right place. But it was a few months later that I was looking on Zillow and I came across a property that just had a map drawing, had nothing else, just had like kind of scribble. And I'm like, what is this? But it showed 2 lots, and it said, it was a very short description saying it was on the water. And I just had a feeling. And I'm like, something on the water. We got to go look at it. And so me and my wife drove out there, and that lot that we bought the Coalmont was $85,000. It was listed as. And it had a little fishing cabin that was, it totally needed to be redone, but it had 2 acres on the water and was just magical from the moment we stepped on it. We were like, yeah, this is it. And since then, there was 2 acres next to us with a cottage on it that about a year later, they sold that to us. So now we have the 4 acres with the cabin that we remodeled, and then we have a cottage next to us on 2 acres, also on the water, that's just waiting for us. So
that's incredible. What an amazing find. And I love the fact that it was listed on the MLS with just a hand-drawn scribble.
Yeah.
Isn't it pretty amazing when things just align and like that? I mean, you don't hear stories like that often where you are able to, you're in the market for something and something like that appears in that type of condition, but then it takes someone really, really special to be able to see that and then say, I know what this can be and what we can turn this into.
Yeah.
And
definitely keep a vision to see.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? It's tough to be able to have that vision, and because this is such a new industry in the bigger sense of it, where trying to explain what you're doing to traditional bankers is extremely difficult. So trying to get any type of lending of saying, no, I know this is rinky-dinky, and I know that long-term rentals might not be profitable here, but when we put the money into it and renovate it, it's going to cash flow incredibly. Trying to explain that to a traditional lender is very difficult in our experience.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's amazing to see the entrepreneur have a vision and then execute that vision in such a beautiful way is super, super incredible. Now, let me ask you this. When you guys saw the cabin, did you already know the design that you wanted to have?
No, it actually took a while. So we closed on it in January of 2020, and we know what the rest of 2020 looked like. So it was wild because all we knew is that we needed to close on the property. We wanted the property. We wanted to close on it as quickly as we could. So we closed in January 2020, and as we were kind of we were okay with kind of like taking our time and make sure it's done right. We take our time, and then we know COVID kind of steps in and changes everything. And it actually ended up being of, let's hurry up and wait for a while and see what happens with COVID. But I'll never forget it, because the cabin was in good enough shape where we could go and we could, sleep on the floor, kind of like a glamping in this old rustic cabin. I mean, it needed a lot of work, but it's good enough where we could go in there. We could take the kids. We could sleep in the floor with our sleeping bags. We have all the land where we can go out and be on the water. And it was kind of like a getaway. It was like 2020 was tough for us, and it was tough for a lot of people. And it was a great place for us to go and relax and get away, which kind of, I think, helped give us the vision for like, this is what we want it to be for other people. We want people to come here and just the worries melt away. And so that kind of influenced our design decisions and everything we did later in 2020.
Amazing. How did y'all you like that? How did y'all? I'm just throwing out my
I like that.
my Tennessean accent over here. Yeah. How did you guys, or how did y'all finance the property and get into it in the beginning of 2020?
Yeah, so we did a renovation loan for most of it. And we were talking off camera a little bit earlier. We have a mindset of really liking to cash flow things. We really like to pay cash as much as we can, and a goal of ours is always to get the cabin remodeled and pay it off as quickly as possible, and just have that cash flow coming in, and then move on to the next thing. We're probably a little bit more risk averse than a lot of real estate type investors, but we're okay with that. And like we've had so many homes where we bought and sold and fixed up and sold, and I think now we're really just enjoying the process slowly. I think it's easy to be impatient and just move on to the next thing, but it's for us, it's really like an experience of getting to learn this cabin and how it's going to do in the space and renting, and then really, build up that nest egg and then move to the next thing and kind of do it again. So that was our mindset. And so we did the renovation loan. We put a lot of cash.
Did you do the original $80K in cash?
So that one. So no, we did do a loan for that. We did a secondary home loan for that, and then for the renovation, we did a lot of cash combined with the renovation loan, which we're paying down rapidly right now, so we can eventually cash flow it. And so that's the goal. I think all in it was 85 and then 135 for the whole renovation of the property. It's small, but we had we were building in the height of COVID, so prices were skyrocketing, and we decided, some of the decisions we made were like, we didn't go cheap on a lot of things. Like we said, all right, we're doing cedar. Like cedar is more expensive than it's ever been. Let's do all cedar decking and siding. And we did Trex deck outside. We're like, all right, it's almost the same price as the lumber. Let's do it. Let's just do it right. This cabin was very special to our family. And I think especially like having gone through the year, spending time with our kids there, we really created a bond with it. And so I think even when we were renovating it, we're not going to try to cut costs or anything like that. This one's different than our other Airbnbs. We're trying to just get it to the market, get some cash flowing. This was kind of a mix of both. Like we want to rent it, we want to share it, but we also we cherish this place for our family. We want to be able to go out when we want, and block it out. We actually kind of use it as a ministry tool as well. So when people have things that they're going through, or friends or family, like we've been able to send people out just randomly and say, hey, take a couple days at the cabin. And I think that's also kind of some of the benefit to, not taking on so much risk is you don't have to make a certain amount. You're easing that up a little bit to where, you know, for us, we strongly believe in blessing others with that property when we can, you know, and so it's been a great thing to have where, you know, we've had people that are fighting cancer and we're like, hey, you guys need a weekend, like go out, and it really does, it changes people, you know, they get out there and they just are able to release and
Hmm.
relax. And yeah, it's been a blessing in that way. So that's how we, you know, got the cabin renovated and got it going. But yeah, we try to pull out as much cash as we can.
Ryan, that's beautiful, man. I was just actually in a conversation with a guy that I'm helping consulting with, and we were discussing that exact same thing. And he wanted a property that cash flowed a bunch, and I basically made him take a step back, and I said, look, what's your 5 year plan for this? What's your 10 year plan for this? Is this a property you want to pass down to the kiddos? Is this a property that you want in the family for a long time? Or is this property that you just want to cash flow and then in 2 or 3 years want to flip around and sell? And I think it's so important to have that concept in mind when you're investing in these type of properties, because just like what you said, you were able to take your time because you knew that this was not only going to be a cash flowing asset, but also a service facility for you and your family and for your loved ones. And I think that that's so powerful to keep in mind when you're investing in these type of properties. Is this just for the cash flow, just to rent out, or are we doing this for our family as well, to keep in the family, or and to offer our family and friends as well? And so I think when people design their stuff, that takes into consideration, because it trickles down to the materials you're going to use. If it's just for a cash flowing asset, you're not going to be putting cedar
Right.
on everything and use the nicest deck and stuff, right? You're gonna try to limit the materials, use good products, but also on the cheaper end, so that because you know it's going to be in and out, you're not going to be there most of
Yeah,
the time, and it's
absolutely.
just going to be commercial uses. And I think that there's a level of um, craftsmanship and thought and energy that goes into a property that you're going to stay in, and I think that drastically shows for guests when they stay there. And I can talk about my personal experience when designing our properties. There's a difference between how our Airstreams rent out and our homes that are not designed and created by us, and then how our homes that are rented and designed by us. Just the income level is different, and I think that's amazing. Now, people have, in my personal opinion, a better experience in the homes that we design and we've created. But uh, from a monetary standpoint and from an experience standpoint, both are elevated when you put your own touch and care into a property. And so I think that that's a beautiful little piece of info that you added there that I resonate with just wholeheartedly. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the design. So you got into a property with 80K. First off, that's incredible. I mean, I'd love I'd love to find a property for 80K to get into. That's like a dream.
Yeah, I
Um,
couldn't do it a second time.
so I don't think that it's impossible to find though. But I
Right.
think it's being able to be in a market, continuously looking and knowing what you're looking for, and then being able to, when it comes onto the market, to snag it at that time.
Exactly.
And I think that takes a level of preparation, but it also takes a level of like instincts and guts and luck and everything combined into one, right? And so walk me through. I kind of want to know more about the design process of, you buy it in 2020, COVID. You say this is COVID's tough. This, we're going to take our time with this. We're going to design this. You spend a significant amount of money renovating it. Walk me through kind of the design point of um, how you guys aesthetically designed it.
Yeah. So, you know, we walked in that place and we knew, okay, this is some guy's fishing hut. I mean, he comes here, he fishes, and just um, it definitely you got the bachelor pad experience. You know, There's plywood for walls. There's holes. The toilet room, the shower and the toilet were so tight that my shoulders touched the wall to sit on the toilet. I mean, it was quite the experience. We laugh about it now. The kids, they would see spiders and scream in there, and it was, it was so small. It's 450 square feet roughly. How are we going to take that and make that small footprint what it is already and change it? We couldn't totally overhaul it. We just it already had so many. The bones were in place for the most part, and it had some characteristics we wanted to keep. So we wanted to keep that cabin feel, but we did want to make this layout. All right, how is this going to feel bigger? How is it going to feel open? I think the first thing we realized is, well, everyone wants to be outside when we're here. That's really the star of the show, is the water that surrounds the property, the acreage that you're on, the beautiful pine trees, the geese that fly by the front of the cabin, the ducks that walk up. It's so beautiful outside that we said, let's take the experience outside and do some very large decks. And so that's what we did. We did like a 2-tier decking out in front of the cabin that really can be a whole other experience in itself. Because it's up higher in the mountains, it's about, we get some hot summers here in Chattanooga, but it's always about 10 degrees cooler at the Coalmont, which is great. In the summer, it doesn't get above 90, which is awesome. You can actually, and it's all shaded, so you can sit on the deck and eat. It's something we really can't do here in the summer. So we said, all right, the deck, we can put a dining table out here. We can have bench seating. We can have a couch, a fire pit. So all of that you can have just outside on the deck, and you can look at the water, see the fish jumping, see the geese flying by, and really just take in the outdoors, because it's just so open out there. With that, we always wanted a hot tub, and we always wanted to do, we had looked into saltwater hot tubs for a long time, and really wanted to go all out with that. So we got one of the nicest hot tubs we could find for 7 people, hydrotherapy saltwater hot tub. And we decided, all right, that's going to be right outside the bedroom on the deck. It'll have its own private deck where you can sit there and watch the sunset, which that is actually right in line with where the sun sets at night. So all of those things were taken into account, so that added so much square footage to this property, is just all the experience that we could add outdoors. And then with a little bit of configuration, raising the roof a little bit higher, reconfiguring the bathroom. We cut out half of the closet to make room for the bathroom expanding just a little bit, just enough to where your shoulders don't have that. So, and so I think, and we called on some design friends. Like, we've got so many connections in the industry just from relationships with doing photography. We called on a great friend of ours, Debbie Sue, who was our GC. She really, she always did her own properties. She does all of her own flips, and she decided to kind of come on and help us with this project. And she was great at bringing on people who could really see the vision. And a lot of people enjoyed working out there. If you can go to work, and I mean, some of them even brought a tent, so they would camp out and then they work on the cabin. So, it was really great. And I think having people we knew, being able to take that project and understand the vision, I think that was important with this property, being how special it was to us. They were able to take our ideas and really make them come to life. And like I said, we wanted to keep the cabin elements, as much wood as we could keep. We knew we wanted a loft in there for our kids, for our 2 boys to kind of crawl up there and have their own little space. and we wanted a clean, modern design, but still keeping that kind of rustic cabin feel in different spots. So we had rainbow poplar ceilings, so beautiful, but we had to take it all off because there's no insulation in the cabin. So we had to take all of that off, put insulation in, do the electrical, and they put it all back. So to be able
Oh my
to
goodness.
take that off and to save it and to put it back, I mean, it took a level of touch that's just not like slap it up, tear it down. Everyone was really intentional and thoughtful with the cabin. That was a great part of it. Is they really took care in the pieces and the elements we wanted to keep. So it turned out great.
The fact that you were able to keep certain elements of the previous cabin, I think that those are the stories that no guest gets to hear. But when you're there, you're like, yeah, like
Yeah,
we were able to do that. That's,
yeah.
it's the special things. It's the little things that
It's
you
little
you
things.
get to walk in there
Yeah.
and see. That's pretty amazing. I want to talk about real quick. It sounds like everything was already zoned and permitted correctly because it was a pre-existing structure. Did you have to run into any permitting issues or anything that came after you purchased?
Yeah, so that was one of the benefits, I think, to going out further from a major city. You find these rural pockets where there's not a lot happening. Coalmont's a very small town. The population, I mean, it's a tiny little town in Tennessee, up in the mountains, and it's one of the smallest towns in that county as well. But once our GC looked into permits that you would need to pull, I mean, it was basically, you guys do what you need to do, there. And I think that's something though that everyone that's kind of getting into this industry, if you're getting into Airbnb, it's especially important. We had lots of hurdles when we had Airbnbs in town, and even more so now. And especially the closer you are to town, the more permits, hurdles, things you're going to need to make sure you've got in order. And I think that's one of the benefits to going out further. If you go out if you go out an hour from a major town, it's kind of a sweet spot. You're close enough to where you can draw those people from the city, to come out and experience what you have to offer. And then you also get the benefit of there might not be any permits that you need to worry about. It was great because I didn't think we would even have city sewer or city water, but in electrical, but we actually do, even though it's so rural. We kind of got the best of both worlds, with not having to pull many permits and having to jump through hoops. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Well, that just led me to my next question and segued pretty phenomenally. What is utilities, and the fact that you're tied into all city utilities is, I mean, you're playing in the major leagues with that.
Yeah.
I know that we're completely off grid, and it's just we have to like haul our water to our property every single week. It's just a nightmare. Being
That's
off grid is genuinely a nightmare. Uh,
that's tough. Yeah, we have so. I said city sewer. We actually do have septic out there, but that's the only
yep.
thing we have to worry about. So yeah,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, they just brought um, high speed internet, the fiber optic out there. And I'm like, we
Oh
have
my
fiber
goodness.
optic out here now, and that was
Yeah.
probably.
Y'all are just bougie
Oh yeah,
now.
we're bougie now. It's totally changed everything. So yeah, it's pretty
Oh, it's
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah, the off grid though, I think there's some benefits to that. Knowing that you've got the control. You have you're providing what you have. You're not having to rely. So I mean, we've even talked about, hey, we could even do one off grid property out here. Just to
Hmm.
know we have some lights on. We have something happening. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's some benefits
We
to both, I guess.
if we weren't in the Grand Canyon or like near the Grand Canyon, we would for sure find property that's connected to city. There's a couple little nuggets in there that I really like. I think that I call it the 60-30-10 rule: 60 minutes from a big city, 30 minutes from a final destination, and 10 minutes from civilization. And I think the Coalmont perfectly fits that, and in the sense of you're out away from the world and a big city, close enough to get supplies and anything you need, but you still have that nature type of feel is pretty special.
Yeah,
Um, as
absolutely.
for utilities, I love the fact that you were able to uh, already have everything in line. Now, in your second cabin, are you having to do a septic unit, or are you just tying into the first septic unit?
Yeah, it needs a new septic unit. It's going to have to be its own septic unit. So yeah, that'll be the second property is, it's something we're still kind of going through talks on what it's going to look like. We have no idea yet, but it's pretty exciting that we do have, a second cottage that's there waiting to be renovated, and we actually have a third lot as well that's empty on the water. So we've got a third lot that's just waiting for something to pop up. So there's
We might have to put a stargazing home next to
yeah.
you on
Hey, we'll have to talk more about that for sure.
yeah, man. Okay, so I call it experiential travel because it's not a place to stay overnight and like a hotel. You're not just staying over and a place to sleep. You're really staying in a property for the experience and for I say to disconnect in order to reconnect and to basically have these lifelong memories with your families and loved ones. You have tons of experiences on your property. Walk me through the ideation of all of your experiences and kind of what you offer and what you think stands out the most.
Yeah, I think there was a moment that, other than the first time we walked on the property, the first time me and my wife walked on the property, we knew it was special, and we knew that it was funny. We both said, like, man, we just feel so relaxed all of a sudden. Your mood changes. You just shift when you can not hear cars buzzing by, and all the noise that you hear in the city. That's an experience in itself. Um, but there was one time that's a moment I'll never forget, and we would take our kids out there, our two young boys, and they were kind of at that age where things can be boring, if there's not something to do. And it's one of the reasons we wanted to buy the cabin in the first place, is like, hey, we want to get these kids outside more. Like, it's so easy to get in a routine, and they're doing video games, or they're going through, they're doing their homework, video games, or reading books inside. I'm like, let's go outside. When you live in town,
People say they want free range chickens. The new term is free range kids.
free range kids. Yeah, let's get the kids out there. They need to be grass fed. No, get them out there. And we heard complaints. They're both like, "Oh, this is so boring. What do you guys want to do out here?" We're like, "Hey, we're just relaxing." And it was funny. It was a few times we went, and then one day it just clicked, and our boys flipped the switch, and I saw them like digging in the mud down by the water, and I'm like, all right, they're not digging in mud, kids, but I like that. That's good. And then they're on this dock that we have. It's an old dock. It's it needs a lot of work. We did a little bit to kind of make it manageable, but they're up on the dock, and I see them all. They're both talking to each other, and we're kind of far away, and they're just looking at the water. And I could tell they were getting ready to jump. I'm like, no, they're not going to jump in the water with all their clothes on. I mean, they had rain boots on, but they had all their clothes on, and they're just looking. And so I pull out my phone and I start recording because I thought they were going to do it. And then Max just jumps, and boom, mud everywhere, water everywhere, covered. And it was just like, it just changed. Everything from that moment changed. And then they just kept taking turns, jumping off, boom, and mud everywhere. And we're like, wow, like they really just embrace this outdoor living all of a sudden. And from that point, they just love going. They love going to the cabin, being outside, and I just love seeing them run around. And that's special. And I think it really just shifted everything for us and our view for the property in the future. Is that we want everyone that comes to be able to break through that wall, no matter what it is. It's if there's a wall of stress, that it's the everyday grind that you're going through. Break through that, relax, get in the hot tub, watch a sunset, turn off your phone, put it away, like really just embrace the outdoors and to embrace nature. And so that's what everything is for us there and what we gear, So you'll even see there's no TV in the cabin. We've had a few people message like, "Hey, where's the TV?" Like, no, you don't want the TV. Like go outside, experience. And it's funny, a few of them they would be like, "Yeah, you're right. Like, didn't even miss it. We thought we might want to watch a movie or something. We didn't even miss it. There's waterfalls close by. We're 20 minutes from multiple waterfalls, beautiful hiking trails." State parks, one of the biggest state parks in Tennessee is there. It's just a great place to be outside. And, I think that's our vision for people, is to really experience peace in nature and outdoors, relax. So that's kind of our view and our vision for the next properties we do as well.
That's beautiful. What does that mean for you when you see that, like when you see your kids push through that barrier and push through and experience that change? What does that mean for you as a father?
I think, parenting is tough. It's hard. I love our boys with all my heart, but there's many times where I'm like, man, am I failing? Am I doing this right? I think there's many times as parents where you're struggling to know if you're doing things the right way. And it's moments like that where I see, I make them come out of their comfort zone, and I push them a little bit, and to see them break through, it really just, it makes me feel good that, okay, they're learning something from me. I'm passing something on to them. And I think it's important for everyone to, especially these days, to realize how much we have things pulling at us. We have ads pulling at us, and screens and shows and things in social media that's always pulling at us for our attention. And I think every time we go out there, it's just a perfect reminder for me as a father that my kids are also pulling for my attention, and that I can put those things away. And, just watching them, it would have been so easy for me to miss that moment, I think. If I'm on my phone browsing, or if I'm off, worrying about something else. But it was a moment that I got to just watch. And it changed my life. From that moment, it changed my view of the Coalmont and what that property could be, and what properties can be for other people as well. Like you mentioned earlier, like I think people, a big part of it is to figure out your why, figure out what is it that makes you want to do this. If it's to be financially stable and to grow a career, that's awesome. Like you can do that. I think there's people that kind of want to do both. They want to take it and be able to build something financially, but also have a place for themselves as well, which I think is really cool. Like if you can have a rental that pays the bills and makes you a little bit of money, but then you can go and enjoy it yourself. Yeah, that's going to change your mindset. That's going to change everything you do in the future. It's going to change how you design it. I think it changes your legacy as well, because you may have it in the future. You might have kids in the future. You may want to pass it on to someone else. And I think those are things that that are important to think about when you are looking at properties. If you find an old fishing cabin, or if you find a vacant lot, um, yeah,
I
that,
was having a discussion with one of our investors, and we were talking about he's already ready on for a second unit, and he was talking about other people that he might want to bring in and partner with, and he was discussing with me on exactly what you were mentioning, the why. And I think it's important to really dissect that for yourself. And we were going back and forth, and he wanted to possibly invest with this guy with me, and this might be a tough opinion to push out there, but I don't think someone should do this with money being the leading force. Not because it's not going to be profitable, but if you figure out a why that's not money, it will influence the property to make more money.
yeah, that's a
In
great
this,
that's a great way to look at that for sure.
because I genuinely think that every time a guest goes there, they feel the energy that you've put into your property. They feel the design. They feel how curated this is. They feel that this is not, you're not setting this up as an Airbnb, but as a place for you and your family. And I think that is felt by guests. And I think that the properties that we have, again, the properties that we have done with the mindset of, oh, we just want to cash flow this, don't cash flow, as well as the properties that we say we're going to design this and curate this as an experience for us, and for even if you design it with the thought process of, I'm going to design this for short-term rental, not thinking I'm going to design this to maximize revenue, but design it with the thought, I'm going to maximize the experience, I'm going to maximize the feeling guests have, I'm going to maximize when the guest comes in, I want them to come in through this entrance.
Yeah.
It's the little things that it's, I don't know, it's, for me it's a different mindset, and I think it's important, at least when the investors we were working with, it's important to, whoever your team is when you start this venture, has that same mindset, has that concept of, we're doing this to offer this experience for this type of guest to come in, and almost to choose your demographic, choose your guest, and curate it for that. And so it was interesting to dissect the thought process behind the why for us,
Yeah.
and have it not be the viewpoint of, I'm going to maximize this for profits, but maximize for the experience, which in turn will maximize for profits.
Absolutely, and I think what you said is spot on. I'm always shocked at some of the reviews we get in. We have a little book that people can leave notes in at the cabin, and one of my favorite things is to read that book, because people say things like, "Man, we can feel the love in this cabin. Like, every inch is thoughtful." Like, things like that mean a lot, because we did put so much time and thought in every little decision. And you're totally right. If it's just an investment, you're an investor, you're taking a property, you're trying to build it up and sell it real quick. Yeah, you're going to make different decisions. You're probably not going to make the right decisions. It's probably not going to be as profitable. And that's the thing. I think that is one of the reasons we stay booked up and the reviews come in like they do, because you can feel that. You can feel the purpose behind it, and you can feel the
Yeah,
why.
absolutely. I want to switch gears here, and I come from a very similar background from you, actually. I come from a marketing background, photography, videography. I've been doing photos and videos for over a decade now, and I can tell you from personal experience how important. So I switched gears. I was in marketing for 10 years, and then I was like, I want to get into real estate. I want to start into this experiential travel game. And I took a step back and I was like, that sucks though. Like, I just spent a decade doing marketing, and now none of the things I'm doing translate to this. And it wasn't till recently where I realized that every single thing I learned from photo and video has compounded. And Alex Hormozy says the SME 500, and you're investing in yourself. Talk to me a little bit about how your insight and expertise in the photo and video realm has translated into Coalmont Cabins.
Yeah, I think, having that background, I think first is understanding the importance of it. I think there's too many times where, especially I can see in the Airbnb market, short-term vacation rental market, where people rush into it. Like, I get it. Like, you got a property, maybe you're doing a remodel real fast, and like, gosh, sometimes furnishing these things is such a pain. It's there's so many little decisions like you have to make on the design, on the types of towels and the bed sheets, and all the little things. So there's a lot of time that's kind of hanging in the balance, and meanwhile you're losing money. But I think so many times those things get rushed, and it's so important not to rush them. And part of that's the marketing. I don't think that you should rush to get your property going until you have content, until you have the right photos that really sell the experience. You got one shot to put it out there for the first time, and it's not that it'll make or break you, but it's definitely going to kind of set the standard. All right, this is the price point, or this is the demand right out of the gate. I always think it's very important to put your best foot forward. So when it comes to photo and video work, we always want our best work out there. And it's the same when you have an Airbnb. You want your best photos out there. You want to try to translate that experience through photos and video. It's hard to do, but that's what we want to do, and that's what we try to do and strive to do. So all times of the day, let's try to show photos of all times of the day. Try to get some lifestyle shots of people actually experiencing it. What would your perfect clients be? Who would they be? So I remember we would do content shoots where we would take couples out and have them, we'd photograph them. Not long after, we had people asking to do weddings out there. So people have actually gotten married on that little deck out in front of the 400 square foot Coalmont. So, and it's cool because, we've through how you market, that's going to gain the people that you want, the people that is the perfect fit. And, you kind of find out quickly, like, who's going to rent your space. And that should guide kind of the content you do forward after that. We had so many anniversaries, and we still to this day, we get, every once in a while we'll get weddings. We have honeymoons and anniversaries. And we're like, all right, this is the cabin of love here all of a sudden. We like, people want to get away and they want to relax, the two of them. And so a lot of the things, so what we did after that was we developed a romance package. So they can add on this romance package. We'll put rose petals out for them. They'll have flowers on the bed, bottle of champagne or wine, and they'll get to experience something a little bit more. But then we market that. So yeah, I think keeping that in mind with your photo and video work is important. Always keeping that ideal client in mind. Who's going to rent my space? Well, that should guide what you shoot, and that's always been our approach.
I love that. That takes us right to the next segment of booking channels. What booking channels are you on? What's the occupancy rate? And then what booking, where do you get most of your bookings?
So right now we are 99% Airbnb. We started, we knew that, all right, we just want to get on Airbnb. Our previous properties, they were 100% Airbnb. This one, we knew we wanted to start there and then see how we could expand. Well, it's been doing so well on Airbnb. We kind of said, all right, let's start a Vrbo account. We had done that before with another property. See how well it does. We had so much momentum through Airbnb. I know their percentages are higher, so we are actually actively looking at options to do our own bookings. So that is going to come, but we have a 90% occupancy rate.
That's beautiful.
We have a great nightly rate. The other 10%, it's honestly more like 100, because the other 10%, like I said, we try to bless people with. We try to give it away. Or our family goes like, oh, it's open this day. Let's head over there. It's an hour away. So, so it's 90 to 100% occupied. It's doing so well on Airbnb. We do want to kind of do our own bookings in the near future and kind of open up some maybe additional things, because like you said, like the experience is huge there. You've got the water, you've got things to do, places to go. I think having our own booking platform to really be able to add some additional fun things to do, maybe even on the property, is something that we're talking about. So yeah, right now it's mostly Airbnb and it's been good.
It's incredible. I call them the dream team because it's the lifeblood behind the organization. It's the people that just keep the property going. Cleaning, handyman, on-site manager. Who's your dream team?
Yeah, so our dream team is so through our photography business, we have someone in our office who Autumn, and she handles a lot of she handles our messages, our bookings, our calendar, all the corresponding between our cleaner and landscaper. She does such an amazing job. You need someone who really knows how to communicate. And she's that person. She does such a great job. And then, these small towns are hard. Sometimes they're hard to find people, it's very rural. It's an approach that we've taken is, because we go out there so much and we spend time there, it's been easy for us to kind of get to know people. Like, we talk to our neighbors, we talk to so-and-so down the road who owns the market. Like, we try to, we don't want to just have a property in a random town. Like, we want to know people. Like, we want to know the town. We want to know who are the people that are there, and how do they see the town, and how do they see our property even, and what do they think about it? And,
be a part of the community.
What's that?
Be a part of the community.
Yeah, we want to be a part of the community. And the great thing is, like, they send you people. They're like, hey, so-and-so can clean that place for you. What do you think? And so, just through that, we've gotten to know people, and we that's how we got a cleaner there who's been phenomenal. So our office coordinator, our cleaner, and our landscaper, who's also kind of a handyman. That's our dream team. And I think it's important that all of those people be a little flexible, and from time to time, reward them for that flexibility. If we got to hop over there at a random time, like, hey, here's a little bit of money to help you out. I appreciate you going and checking the electrical or whatever is going on. I think you do need a small, you need a dream team. You need people who can be there for you in emergencies, and it's good when they can kind of take on multiple roles as well. People, especially if you get these properties way out, if they live close by or even live on property, I think is super important. So that's our dream team and who we've got, and they've been great.
I love that. One of my favorite segments is I don't know what to call it yet, but it's basically the things that your guests ask for, and maybe I call it compromises, but it's things that have been brought up by guests that you were like, okay, yes, let's implement this, let's change that. And then things that got brought up by guests that you were like, absolutely not. This was designed that way, and I will not cave, and I will not fall to peer pressure. TV being one of them, for example. Are there other things Do you have an example of things that you have compromised with and said, yes, we should definitely add that, and then things that you pushed back on with guests?
Yeah, you know what? I think the main thing has been, having a TV in the space. That was one of the main things. We just, we're kind of forward about it. Like, no, we won't have a TV there. Not to, we could have another property, maybe the cottage or another property that has a TV in it. Maybe it's a different experience. Maybe we gear it towards a certain client, but especially for us wanting to go there and enjoy it, we said, all right, I don't want the kids turning that TV on. I don't even want it to be a temptation. And it's just great to disconnect. So that was one thing. You know, we've had maybe mentions of, maybe doing the shower differently. But we're in such a tight space. It was really tough in certain spots to get it to work. So yeah, we haven't had any major suggestions. Let me think here. We've had people mention maybe wanting to fish. So that we don't have fishing poles on site, like they can fish, but
Yeah.
maybe in the future we would talk about having fishing poles available if they wanted. So, and having all the fishing gear, which we don't have now, but that's something that has been brought up. So I think we're always open to different ideas. I love when people suggest things um, and want to bring things to as ideas. I think it's fun and gets the wheels turning.
Yep.
But we've never had any like, all right, you should do this or
Yeah.
yeah.
We have one of our tiny homes has a loft and doesn't have a shade on the window on the loft, and we get reviews saying that, oh, it would be great if there was a shade. We refuse.
Oh
Absolutely
yeah.
not. We want people to wake up with the sun, and it's something that we full heartedly admit. It's on our listing. We say there's no shade in the loft. This is on purpose. Like if this is a deal breaker for you, then don't book our tiny home. So I love those little things that I don't know. It's the things that you don't that make it yours and make it not a rental. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, man. So we kind of got into it earlier. It's called experiential travel because I do think that we're offering a place that's not just a place to rest your head. You mentioned the story about your kids, which was just so lovely. Is there, and if there's not, I love your story with your kids. Is there another story with guests, perhaps, that kind of reminds you why you did what you did and the experience that you're offering and how beneficial it is to people to have this experience? Is there a story that kind of resonates with you regarding that?
Yeah, I think there's several stories that kind of meld together, and it has really been the people we've been able to share the property with, at no charge, and just said like, hey, we want to give you guys a weekend out there, and for people to go and experience and shed a tear with, I mean, it's pretty special, and I think that's something that we always want to do with our properties. Um, and I think we had some people that were going through cancer, like I mentioned, and we sent them out there, and we got to do a teacher giveaway at our school, and actually, you know what? I'll talk about that because that was kind of a fun thing that we came up with at our boys' school. We came up with a little comment box on our website, and we said what we would like everyone from the school, it can be the kids or the parents, is we want you to go to the website and we want you to say something great about one of the teachers at school. And every time you mention a teacher, the teacher gets a chance to have a 2-night stay at the cabin. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
what happened
I
is the
love that.
whole school ends up just flooding the comments with these beautiful words for all the teachers at our school. And just, I mean, it gives me chills thinking about, like, when we go to school and the teachers like say, hey, that was like the most amazing thing, is like, I had parents saying things to me that I didn't know. I had students who are now like talking to me more and kind of opening up. And it was just cool to see all those teachers, get all that love. So it was almost like there was a winner, and she was super thankful. But it was also a way to like bless the whole school. All the teachers kind of got to feel some of the love. So I think there's ways to do that. When we started the cabin, we also did a similar thing on social media where we said, we want you to nominate a person who deserves a stay, and if you want to share their story, why they deserve it, put it on a post. And we actually, that's how we started this list of, like, we call it like a needs list of like people who need a stay. And we created this list based on just like our first post announcing that we were, giving away a weekend, and the stories that we had coming in, and the people we saw who could really use a stay. It's been great, and we just kind of keep going down that list. But those are some of the cool things you're able to do with a change your mindset on your why.
That's beautiful, man. I love that story with the teachers. I want to do something like that. When you were explaining that, it inspired me to think of like, what can I do to give back to the community, and to give back to the just what when you get impacted by the experience, there's something that happens, I think, that you innately say, okay, other people need to experience this. Other people need to have the feeling that I had. I'll tell you, the first time I stayed in an Airstream in the middle of nowhere, the experience I had doing that was life-changing. And so I knew that when I stayed there, I said I wanted to create these properties so that I can give the same type of experience that I had when I first stayed there. So I think it's beautiful what you're doing, man. Where can people find you?
So yeah, we're the coalmontcabin.com, and then Instagram is at Coalmont Cabin.
I love it. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. And I look forward to possibly one day maybe making up a trip to Tennessee and come seeing you in person.
Yeah, that sounds great, Lex. I appreciate you having me.